Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to all. It's my immense pleasure to welcome you all for the webinar on research paper writing. Now I call Mrs. S. Selva Jayanti to welcome the gathering.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you all for this webinar on research paper writing. Writing is an art. It gives you a head start to future scholarly work. I welcome you all to learn the art of research paper writing. First of all, I would like to welcome the
experience for you guys, and some of the things which I would like to try to highlight upon, like as ma'am has mentioned in her introductory brief, that the writing a scientific paper is basically an art. So we will deal with these things, and then I would like to have a your queries, particularly on various aspects of research paper writing. So without wasting much of time, let us move to the first slide, and we will go one by one. I hope I am audible to each one of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to share my slides with you right now. Give me a second. My slide is visible to you?
No, sir.
Okay. Just give me a second. Is it visible now?
So no, sir. Yeah, it's now visible, sir.
I hope it is visible now, because I have.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible now.
Okay. So my introduction has already been given to you. I have published around 50 plus papers with various international leading publishers, including Springer, PLOS, Taylor Francis, elsewhere also, and 2001 was quite productive for me, because we were able to publish at least 2 papers with scientific reports, one of the prestigious journals from Nature Group, and from Frontiers Group, I could publish 1 research paper in last year. I have also got published a few books, mainly from Springer publication and some national publishers also. 2021 has been extremely productive for me, in terms of, because this year I shall be getting 4 volumes with Springer. Two of them are already in production at advanced stage, and 2 will be coming maybe within a couple of months or so. So with this confidence, I hope I would be able to deliver something meaningful to you. And this is the content, like what we are going to discuss during this webinar. I do not want to keep it a monologue. So if any query arises, you can stop me in between, and we can discuss those points. Otherwise, I shall be going one by one. So first, I will try to talk about the 2 most important points when it comes to scientific writing. One is the language, English language, and another one is very tricky issue, that is called plagiarism, text overlap, knowing or unknowing. Then in structured manner, we will be going one by one, like why we write research papers, what type of manuscripts are there, what is the final checklist, how do we identify the journal, how do we submit it, then when it is evaluated by the reviewer panel, then how we prepare the response to the reviewers comments. As a bonus, if time permits, I would like to throw light upon how to write a report or and a thesis also. But primarily, I shall be talking about the research paper writing. So coming to the first point, that is language. We all understand the importance of language when it comes to communication uh, of a scientific research paper. So we all understand the importance of good command over the grammar and vocabulary. So I would encourage the budding researchers, young researchers, those who have just completed their PhD and still lot of data left over to publish with, to bring it to before the scientific community. So I would urge upon you, encourage each one of you to keep writing research papers, try to pick up the vocabulary part from the international publications and try to remember them and try to implement them, use them when you write your own research paper. So making this reading should be made a habit. Reading of contemporary research papers in the field where we work it must be a habit. There should not be going a single day when we are not reading at least one research paper. So if we make it as a habit, then within a very short span of time, we shall be able to know means what are the important contents of a research paper, how do we write them, and we will confidence. Then another important aspect is the language policing. So once we write a particular sentence, then try to write in a different manners, different possible ways. So this language policing, it should also be made as a habit, and these things will come with practice only, practice and practice only. These days lot of online resources are available, so we should make best use of them. Like I completed my PhD way back in 2007. At that time perhaps the internet was not available that in that much plentifully, but right now it is available on your mobile phone. So wherever you go, you can carry all these things with you. With large touch screen mobile phones, things are pretty easy to read through. So we should be make best use of those online resources. Coming to the plagiarism, we all understand, we all know that it is an offense these days. So I think universities also, they encourage and in fact they make mandatory to have checked the final write-up through plagiarism tracking software. One of the most popularly used plagiarism tracking software you may be aware of is the Authenticate or Turnitin. There are other softwares also. In fact, universities, various universities might be having and colleges might be having their own software. So again, I would like to emphasize this plagiarism. It can malign our reputation. So maybe knowingly or unknowingly, we should not be indulged into such type of practices. Sometimes we are tempted to write quickly, get the paper published as early as possible due to some constants, maybe promotions, getting project funds, grants, and etc. We have seen a lot of instances wherein very reputed institutions and faculties from those institutions were found to indulge into such practices, and it ultimately leads to a very negative image, and it ends up nothing, because these days nothing can be hidden. More maximum things are available online, so means you cannot hide anything. And various journals also follow a very strict policy when it comes to dealing with plagiarism. Even after publication, this post publication surveillance is conducted by various reputed publishing institutions, and even after publication, journals can retract your publication, and we may have consequences in terms of bad image, bad reputation, and some uh, other adverse actions. It is really very difficult to be good, as we know some of the. I would like to cite here some of the examples, like in case of Barack Obama. He was also accused in during 2008 of plagiarizing a speech by Massachusetts Governor Devil Patrick. Another world leader, Vladimir Putin, also was awarded when he was awarded with an advanced degree with the help of dissertation, which was later alleged that it has included around 16 plagiarized pages, which were apparently copied either word from word or with minute alterations from the management study. The current US President Joe Biden also has a bad history of plagiarizing some of the portions of his speeches. So it is very difficult to be good, but we must strive that if we want to remain in the scientific arena, we must care about the individual image, individual prestige, reputation, and the institutional image to which we belong. So we should not be indulged into such practices. It can malign our reputation, and we have seen many reputed persons. Even this self plagiarism is also not acceptable. I can give one example with respect to my own book. In fact, this Biology of Compost, this book appeared in 2020 with one chapter contributed by one Chinese professor. So I made every effort to check the plagiarism, and unfortunately, what happened in this case, that that author, till the time he submitted his manuscript to me, it was unplagiarized. But after that, a substantial chunk of that chapter was published in another journal. So when finally the publisher at production stage checked, and he found that this was the case, around substantial plagiarism was noticed in that particular case. So later on, that Chinese professor apologized for that, and at last stage, the publisher had to withdraw the chapter. So the point I'm trying to make over here is that even the self plagiarism is also not acceptable. Unknowingly doing these things is also not acceptable, because when the things are reported, it will not be possible for us to establish that the mistake committed by us was knowingly or unknowingly. So whenever we prepare our manuscript, finalize it, get it checked thoroughly from these particular aspects. We all may be aware about the fact that the UGC imposes severe penalty on plagiarism aspect. Why I am emphasizing again and again? Because these days, with lot many publishing journals cropping up every here and there, these cases of plagiarism are also increasing day by day. So UGC is also trying to curb the menace of plagiarism. They have brought out this notification in 2020, wherein they have categorically mentioned what type of penalties to be imposed in case of plagiarism was reported, particularly for the thesis or dissertation. So even if the plagiarism is proved on a later than date of award of degree, as the case may be, degree can be put in abeyance. So up to that much strictness is being observed by the UGC to deal with the plagiarism issue. You may be aware of these various clauses when different levels of plagiarism, like how much penalty can be imposed. In fact, if a similarity index is more than 60%, then manuscript must be withdrawn, and even the supervisor will not be allowed to supervise any new master, MPhil or PhD for a period of 3 years. So there are various levels of penalties associated with the plagiarism issues. So we need to take it very, very seriously. Now coming to the research paper. Why do we write research papers? So ideally we write the research papers to share the research findings for knowledge dissemination to serve the society better. But practically, to get PhDs, those who are research scholars, nowadays they require minimum 2 publications before they can defend their thesis. Or if you have got good publications, then chances are high that you will get a postdoctoral position in reputed institutions abroad or in India. Of course, to get a job, you need to satisfy certain criteria with respect to academic performance indices as mandated by the UGC minimum qualification for the teachers to be appointed in academic institutions, colleges and universities. If you are already in a job and you want promotion, of course, there are certain criteria where also publication is required, and of course to get recognition among the peers, scientific community, to get award, research grant or membership of various government committees. So basically publications give the visibility of your personality, your career as a scientist, as a researcher among the scientific community. So this is the basic aim why we write the research papers. Now coming to various types of manuscripts, we know that there are different types of manuscript. The typically we deal with the original research articles or the regular research articles, which report on primarily unpublished studies. It may also encompass confirming studies and disconfirming results, which allow hypothesis elimination, reformulation, and report on the non-reproducibility of previously published results. These manuscripts are peer-reviewed. Generally, they have the maximum word count of around 12,000, and they may contain no more than 15 figures or tables. Their typical format is like abstract, an introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion and conclusions. Sometimes results and discussion we keep writing together also, and then conclusion is made separately. Another category of review article is the review article. So what is a review article? What are the important ingredients or important features of a review article? So a review article basically covers topics that have seen significant development or progress in recent years with comprehensive depth and balanced perspectives. The review article presents a complete overview of the state of art, and it should not merely summarize the literature. Means it should not be basically the assemblage of figures and facts. Rather, it should include different schools of thoughts, various controversies, contrasting ideas. Then it should also include the fundamental concepts, issues, problems, and more importantly, what are the gaps or lacuna in the current research work, and how those gaps or lacuna can be fulfilled. Then further potential developments in the fields. So a review article is basically, it provides a comprehensive, in-depth, critical assessment of existing literature on a very narrow theme, and it identifies the lacuna in existing scientific knowledge, and then it try to provide the directions for the future research work. So these are the basic things which must be kept in mind when we write a review article. It should be up-to-date analysis of the existing literature, starting from some of the historical facts, and we must provide the review of literature in a most up-to-date manner. And review articles are, of course, peer-reviewed various reputed journals accept or consider the review articles generally by invitation only. Usually the review article has a typical format like abstract or summary, then introduction, then various subsections relevant to the subject, discussion, and then it also provides the future perspectives. Review article must not include unpublished material or unpublished or original data or references to the submitted manuscript or personal communications. So in nutshell, review article is a critical, in-depth, most up-to-date with narrow theme, and it identify lacuna in existing research and provide directions for the future research work. There is another category of manuscript which is called perspective. So the perspective is basically it present a viewpoint on a specific area of investigation. It should provide this. It should discuss current advances and future directions. It should provide clear presentation of the author's perspective. Then it should provide accurate presentation and citation of other authors' works. It may include original data as well as personal insights and opinions also. Of course, the perspectives category is also peer reviewed and it is relatively shorter in size in terms of maximum word limit is generally it is around 3000, and it may contain no more than 2 figures or tables. So general structure of a perspective is abstract or summary, an introduction, subsections relevant for the subject and discussion. Other type of manuscript is typically the case report, which is generally when you present the clinical findings or clinical aspects, it is much more relevant for those type of studies. So it highlights unique cases of human or animal patients that present with an unexpected diagnosis, treatment outcome, or clinical course. Of course, it is also peer reviewed. It has a maximum word count of around 3000. It may contain no more than 4 display items like figures, tables, etc. The general structure of a manuscript is abstract, introduction, figure or table, then diagnostic assessment, discussion, and patient perspective. Then another category is called opinion or viewpoint. So opinion articles, basically they allow authors to contribute viewpoints on the interpretation of recent findings in any research area, value of the methods used, as well as weaknesses and strength of scientific hypotheses. Generally, the viewpoints or opinion should abide to the following guidelines, like they should not contain unpublished or original data, they should be supported by evidence, fully referenced, and they should encourage constructive discussion, and they should refrain from emotionally charged argumentation. This is very important because if with a scientific temperament we can talk only rationally, not emotionally, with reasoning only. Opinion articles are also peer reviewed. Maximum word count is around 2000 and they may contain no more than 1 figure or table. Opinion articles such topic, editorial 1000 with 5 to 10 articles. The word limit can be increased for each additional this thing. Then there is another category called letter to editor. So it is basically a brief report that is within the journal's scope and of particular interest to the community, but not suitable as a standard research article. So a maximum 10 articles may be included in the reference. Letters to editor may be edited for clarity or length, and they may be subject to peer review to the editor's discretion. Now coming to the main basic type of manuscript, which is regular research paper. So what are the important components, basic fundamental components of a manuscript? When we prepare a manuscript, we must keep in mind these things. Cover page. So the cover page should include title, running head, all authors' names and affiliations, and full contact information for the corresponding author. When we prepare the cover page, we must cross-check that we have provided with the correct affiliation, correct contact details, communication details, email IDs, phone number, fax number, etc. We need to check them very carefully, because based on this only further correspondence is made. Then abstract. So abstract should allow up to 300 words also. But generally, I would prefer to have an abstract to the size of around 200 to 250 words. We must identify the 5 to 7 relevant keywords, and they should be listed here under the abstract on the same page. Abstract, a typical structure of abstract will be, initially we can provide one to two sentences about the introduction of the research problem, and then objectives of the research problem, various key methodological aspects we can highlight. Then what are the salient that we are going to report in this paper, and what are the significance or implications or conclusions of this study. So this is a typical structure of an abstract we can try to follow. Now coming to the introduction section. I hope I am audible to each one of you. Is there any difficulty?
Yes, sir. It is clear, sir.
No, sir, it's article only, sir.
Fine. So introduction section. Introduction section should explain the rationale behind the current study, placing the research topic and study within the context of current research landscape. So here we are expected to the current study. In those studies which motivated us to undertake this study, this should be clearly highlighted. Then we should provide the research objectives, aims or objectives of our study, experimental design, and what was the hypothesis that we wanted to test. So this introduction section should be structured very carefully, and it should be relevant. It should be relevant to the present study only, because these days what I have observed, like in last year we published 2-3 papers, and it was reviewers were very critical. Means they cannot give you discount even for a single word. So you need to justify even a single word as to why you are using and whether it is relevant in the present context of your study or not. If it is not relevant to the present study, they will not allow you to use that particular terminology key. In fact, they will also ask you to remove that particular phrase from the introduction section. And if they encounter this type of problem at multiple places in introduction section, then they might get irritated, and then results may not be good. Results may not be in our favor. So once we prepare the introduction, once we think of introduction section, first in our mind we should make a blueprint, like where should I start and where should I end. Then one by one means it should be conveying a kind of story just to convince the reviewer that yes, the study conducted by me was very very important, because as per published literature, no specific information is available on the study that I'm reporting here. If the published studies are available, then still there are gaps, still there are many unknowns, and my endeavor is to fill that knowledge gap. And this is my research hypothesis. And in the review of literature section, we must provide most up-to-date review of literature, and then we try to discuss our in a very brief manner what is our hypothesis. So here we can little bit try to give the different contrasting ideas also, like author X, study X, published study X has reported this thing, but study Y has reported this thing, study Z has reported this thing. So it indicates that the things are not convincing, and there still a gap exists which this present study intends to fill. So introduction, since this will be part which will be evaluated by the reviewer very very carefully, we need to be very very careful about that. Before I move further, I would like to emphasize one thing about abstract. Abstract is like brochure of your research paper. So suppose you go to market, want to buy a product, and and the shop owner or the sales guy provide you with a half page or one page small brochure, which will tell you the various salient features of the product that you intend to buy. So this abstract should be written very carefully. It should be structured very nicely. It should not be having any grammatical or typographic or syntax related errors, because if reviewers find any problem, any issues with the abstract, maybe they will not be moving further, and they will not be at abstract level itself, they make up their mind that whether or not to go further, whether or not to evaluate, and they can take a decision at that stage itself. So that's why abstract is very very important, and it should be very convincing to the reviewers that the study we are going to report is very important and it deserves to be considered by the reviewer. Coming to the next part, that is materials and methods. So this section basically provides the various methodological aspects, various materials that we have used. It should contain a clear and concise description, and when required, a justification of the conditions and procedures of the study, as well as analytical tools or methodology used. All the excluded observations, independent variables, manipulations, or dependent variables must be reported. Sample size, where applicable, it should be clearly provided. And the methodological aspect should be in such sufficient details that would allow other researchers to replicate this study. Methodological part that we are using, methods that we are using, they must be contemporary, and they must be well established, well approved, or well recognized methods. Otherwise, the reviewers might question the suitability of those methods. So methods are very important. Here, sometimes what happens due to hastiness, people tend to forget milligram. Simply they write milligram to gram or gram to kilogram, something of that sort. So they make or microliter to micromolar. So some in units of measurements, sometimes they commit very serious mistakes. So this type of mistakes committed in materials and method section is a crime, and reviewers will be punishing you very badly if you make those mistakes. So we have to be very careful when we describe the methodologies. Coming to the results part. So this results section should present the collected data and analysis. Results for all measures should be reported in a concise and straightforward manner, using tables, figures wherever relevant. Duplication of sometimes people provide information, the same information in table also and figure also. So this duplication is not allowed. Either we provide information in data in tabular form or in figures. So because and try to use the figures as much as possible, because the picture speaks volumes than the abstract data. So pictures are much more appealing. So wherever relevant, wherever appropriate, we try to use the good quality pictures, figures, wherein the captions, legends are provided with sufficient size of fonts, so that reviewers will not be having any difficulty reading those things. Again, I would emphasize here, once again, we should cross check the units of measurements here, and there must be coherence in with respect to units of measurement in what we are referring in the figure and what we are referring in the text. So there should be uniformity there, and the authors should be particular attentive about the APA style when typing statistical details. For example, chi-square test or degree of freedom. So there is a specific pattern of writing those letters. We should remain mindful of those things, and we should exclude the most important part here is that sometimes authors are not able to make a distinction between results and discussion. So results simply means what we have observed. It should not include interpretation or discussion of the findings, because interpretation of the results or discussion of the results will come in the later section. At the same time, it should also not include the methodological aspects in the section. Sometimes authors try to duplicate some of the methodological aspects in the results itself. So this should be avoided. Results means pure results. What we have observed, we are simply writing them in a logical fashion, logical manner, with proper citation of tables or figures wherever appropriate. Then coming to the discussion. So the discussion section should include the findings in the context of research questions which we initially posed, or what was our hypothesis. Discussion section should also explore the broader implications and significance of the findings, as well as specific recommendations for the directions of future research on the given topic. Discussion section will try to basically compare the observations or findings that we have reported in our study with already published literature, and we will try, after comparison, logical comparison, we will try to see whether our results are matching with the published results or we are having any deviation from the published results. If we are having any deviation from the published results, then we should try to give the possible explanation why has it happened. For example, in case of phytochemicals reported, a particular alkaloid reported in your study and previously reported study, if you find a significant difference, then you try to discuss what could be the possible reasons why this value is different. Like previous authors might have done sampling in a different season, you have done sampling in a different season. Then it may be related with the extraction efficiency, like another the published researcher from where you have taken reference, they might have adopted a different extraction strategy wherein the recovery efficiency may be different. So there could be multiple possibilities of getting a deviated results, and it is very common, particularly in case of biological sciences as compared to the chemical sciences. So we need to provide with a logical explanation why we are getting a deviation from this. Then discussion should also tell what is the significance of these findings. if we are presenting multiple studies, then we can adopt a different structure like study 1, study 2, like that also. And then in each study will be having separate introduction, methods, results, and discussion sections. Some of the journal, although not common, but some of the journals encourage this type of structure also when, and they will allow you to present multiple studies in a single paper. Otherwise, we authors are very tempted to split our data and publish it separate in separate papers in order to increase the number of publications. So it is not encouraged because same type of work again and again you are publishing with little bit of variation. So if this is the case, I would advise it is always better to pool all the data, make a nice research paper, and aim for a big journal. So that would be rather a good strategy rather than splitting the data and writing two papers wherein you chances are there that you might caught into plagiarism issues. Similar, in case of the note to manuscripts presenting the multiple studies, for example, some research papers, they when they use uh, uh, multiple studies, results and discussion, they should also not be combined and they should be presented in a separate manner. The author contributions, very important aspects, author contributions. So those who have really genuinely contributed to that study, obviously they should they should be the authors. The sequence of authors should be decided based on the convention, like who made the significant contribution. Submit the manuscript to any journal. Then reference, very important part. It is not just that we complete the references. Number of references means references should be uh, no missing references or no extra references in the bibliography section. But reference, since we write the references in the end, when we are done with the results discussion and the substantial chunk of the manuscript, we keep on accumulating, keep on listing them, and then we sit to format those references. By the time we come to result discussion conclusion section, we are already very exhausted, very tired, and we are not able to concentrate on references part. So, and we end up with so many mistakes in the reference patterns. Sometimes we have mentioned year, like in text we have mentioned X et al 2020, and in bibliography section we are mentioning X et al 2021. It may be a genuine mistake, it may be an unknown it may be done inadvertently also. coming to particularly in case where these days the pattern is that the online papers are published early. So online, once you have, when you are writing a research paper, and if it has taken around 5-6 months or so, then when you first saw that paper, it was online published, and later on it was included in the it was provided the proper page number, etc. And so by the time you finish off with your research manuscript, the year got changed, and it has now the page number and volume number, issue number also. So once we finalize the references, we must be very, very careful that we provide the correct information. Not only it is important to provide all the references and avoid any missing or additional references, it is very, very important to provide the correct references with correct page number, etc. Wherever relevant, wherever applicable, DOI number, a digital object identify number should be provided, so that the article can be tracked by the reviewers very comfortably. So here I would like to emphasize that references section, it should be prepared with utmost care. Maybe you can take a break of 1 or 2 days when you are already saturated with the introduction, material methods, and results and discussion section. Just simply list out the references, and when you are we are feeling fresh, then you start over and focus only on references, format them properly. These days lot of online tools are available which will automatically format the references in a given style as prescribed by the journal. Like one of the most commonly used tool is EndNote. You may be aware, some of the versions are freely available of it. So these things can be used. Why I am emphasizing these small things again and again? For example, structuring of introduction section, various parts, various small things in materials and method sections, then reference section, etc. See, ultimately, the reviewer wants to not only wants to know that you have done a proper study following all the scientific principles, all the proper methodologies, contemporary methodologies, but reviewer also wants to have a confirmation or have an assurance that when you conducted the study, you were very, very serious. Means all the observations were taken very, very seriously. Let me give you my own example. Some of my part work I published in way back in 2008 in European Journal of Soil Biology. That research manuscript we prepared and submitted to one journal called Journal of Plant Nutrition. The manuscript got straight away rejected with the comment of the reviewer that he mentioned that you have prepared this manuscript so carelessly that how would I believe on the authenticity of data? Like, if you are so careless in writing a research paper, you must have been careless in recording data also, taking observations also. So how would I believe that you have not committed mistakes while making observations if you are so casual in writing your research paper? So basically, a properly written manuscript not only conveys the scientific data or scientific information properly, but it conveys, means you can assure the reviewer that I was very, very sincere when I recorded the data. I was very, very sincere when I was analyzing the data, and I was very, very sincere when I was reporting that data. So there is no mistake, and the conclusions I am drawing is these conclusions are very, very genuine conclusions. These conclusions are very, very genuine conclusions. So that way we can assure the reviewers without knowing him, without seeing him, because the manuscript is your face before the reviewer. So manuscript means you will be assessed by the reviewer based on this manuscript only. So that's why we need to be very, very careful about those small things when we write the research paper. This is the typical various types of citation patterns you may be aware. American Medical Association, AAMS style or APA style, Chicago style, classic style. These type of citation patterns. So we need to see we need to see the journal guidelines, and that journal is following which type of pattern, and we need to strictly adhere to that pattern. Now coming to publishing a paper. So what is the step-by-step process? So first we select a suitable journal. This is the first and foremost thing. We need to identify a suitable journal which is relevant to our field, and we may have a confidence that yes, we can sail through in the journal. We can get our papers published because this type of work is being considered or is being published in the journal. So our study falls very well within the scope of that journal in terms of quantitative things, qualitative things, etc. After identifying a proper journal, we need to religiously go through the author guidelines. Each small points we need to go through. We need to imbibe the author guidelines, and we need to understand what is its pattern, citation pattern, what would be the structure, what are the things which are allowed, what are the things which are not allowed in this particular manuscript. We need to highlight them, and author guidelines must be followed strictly. Then we need to format our manuscript as per the author guidelines. Once the manuscript is ready, we need to prepare a cover letter. Again, cover letter is very significant part, and most of the Indian authors, they consider it as a formality only. But I can assure you that I can tell you that this is very important. It is the first and foremost thing which will be read out, which will be seen by the desk editor. And if the editor finds substance in it, then things will be easier, because based on cover letter, the editor of the journal will be able to find out suitable reviewers for you. So in cover letter, we need to highlight what this study is about, what is the importance of this study, and how this study adds to the knowledge of the contemporary knowledge. So this should be prepared very meticulously. Then we need to see the submission guidelines also, like how to submit the manuscript, what formats it is accepting, whether it is accepting a single word file including all the figures, tables. Then what should be the position of figures and tables, whether they need to be provided after embedded in the text itself where they should appear. So these are the small but important things, because if you follow them properly, then things will be easier. Otherwise it will be delaying your review process, because once you submit whatever you are submitting, once you submit it, it will be reviewed by the desk, this editorial staff, and if they find any problem with that, they will simply return the manuscript, and again you will need to go through rectify those issues. For example, the figures, what type of file type they are accepting, whether it is a JPG, TIFF or PNG image, or what type of image figures they are, what is the resolution. So these are small things, but they are very important. So we need to pay heed to each and every minute point, because again I am emphasizing here is that These small things, if you follow them properly, means ultimately we will be presenting a very good picture before the reviewer and the editorial staff that you are a serious or sincere researcher, and that will be very helpful. So once you submit the manuscript, once you have submitted the manuscript, it undergoes evaluation. Then if reviewers ask you for a revision, then maybe half battle is won. If revision is asked, then we need to go through each and every comment of the reviewer carefully, very carefully, discuss among our colleagues, peers, and try to understand what a reviewers want with particular comment. Then prepare response to those comments, make a revision in the manuscript one by one, and then make a point by point response to the comment of the reviewers. And we need to assure that whatever suggestions you have made, and we have incorporated them. If we do not agree with the reviewers on certain points, we must tell them very politely, not not in a offending manner, because ball is in his court. It should always be kept in mind, and it should always be kept in mind that we may be a very senior author, but since he is the reviewer, and perhaps he may be knowing things much more than we may be knowing. So this thing always should be kept in mind. Prepare a very polite review, polite reply. If we are not agreeing to any of the points, we must provide our logics, our points in a logical manner, with uh, with proper citations, proper evidences. For instance, if I give you the example of my last year's publication, when I was discussing with the reviewers, my response to reviewers comment was around 7 to 8 pages long, because we were describing this sequencing strategy that is very popular strategy, very common, very popular strategy, sequencing technology these days is nanopore sequencing. So according to reviewer, I had some issues with the nanopore sequencing strategies. According to reviewer, it has got some errors, and these errors are affecting your results. So ultimately, since I did not have time and efforts or resources to again resequence my samples, because samples were also not available, but I was convinced and I was confident about my data that data do not have any errors. So I made a polite reply to them. I provided them due citations. I cited various studies, published papers wherein the same strategy has been used, and no errors were reported. And I requested the reviewer to waive off this, remove those doubts that there is an issue with the data errors. And ultimately, reviewers agreed. So that way, we should not get irritated. Sometimes we may be knowing the reviewers personally also. Yes, I know, because when we work in the same, in a particular field, we know each and most of the people know each and everybody, like who may be the potential reviewer. So this thing should not be a kind of settling the score strategy. No? Whatever reviewers have asked, we must respond them in a polite manner, in a constructive manner, because ultimately all the comments are for improving the quality of the research manuscript only. Then we submit the revised manuscript and wait for a decision. If it is accepted, very good. If it is rejected, do not lose heart. Carefully go through the comments again, because when the paper is rejected, again the reviewer will be telling you specific things why reviewers why they are not able to accept this manuscript, what deficiencies this present version is having. So we need to make a revision in the manuscript, then find a new journal and submit it to that manuscript. So chances are that if we have suitably addressed those comments made by the previous researchers, then maybe in next journal we will be able to publish it easily. Now let us concentrate on this picture. This should not happen. We put all our intellectual or mental juice in writing abstract, introduction, aim, and when it ultimately when we reach to results or discussion, we simply fizzle out. This should not happen. Actually, writing a research paper, as we were talking, it is really a very art. So if it is an art, then each and every detail means if you talk of a picture, no, picture each and every detail from tip to toe. It should be very elaborate, very fine, and it should have been prepared with the same level of engagement, same level of energy, same level of enthusiasm, same level of efforts. Then only it will appear nice. So quickly let us move through some images. First part is how to get started. So we need to find an optimal environment to start a write research papers. Then title and abstract. Title is very important. These days reviewers demand that title should be informative, result oriented title. Abstract I have already highlighted. This is the brochure of your research paper, why reviewers would like to buy your argument. So you need to prepare abstract very carefully. Introduction, as I mentioned, we should keep in mind that it is a funnel shape. Introduction, it work on the funnel shape. Like we started with some general introductory things, then slowly we narrow down, come to a specific hypothesis through adequate review of literature, and then we frame our aims and objectives. Then methods, we need to provide recipe and whatever limitations are there, whatever the scope is there, in that context we need to define that scope itself, that this study is relevant or these findings are relevant in this particular aspect only. So any generalization should be avoided. The point I am trying to make here is any generalization should be avoided. Tables, they should be self-explanatory, means if we give reviewer trouble to again go to the text part, again come to the table, again go to the text part, if we force the reviewer to shuttle between text and table, then we will be end up in a trouble. So we should be our effort should be such that reviewer feel very comfortable while evaluating our manuscript. Then references, I have clearly mentioned that we should have a separate this thing. Once you are done with the results discussion conclusion, then you again with fresh mind, fresh energy, you sit up and complete the reference part. Authorship, discuss it within the team. Those who have genuinely contributed, they should be part of author. Contributions should be clearly highlighted. Choice of journal, as I mentioned, that find out the most appropriate journal, a reputed journal, which covers the scope of your study. Submitting a paper, again I highlighted that the cover letter should be very convincing. While responding to reviewers, we should not get frustrated. Just try to understand what reviewers want, and if reviewers have made some insulting remarks, no need to worry. Simply address them, acknowledge that we have committed a mistake, and we are ready to make a revision, rectify those issues, and submit it. Report writing, I don't know, I think I have already eaten up much time, so whether I am allowed to speak on report writing or not. Dr. Jairam, please help me out. Dr. Jairam?
Hello, sir.
So should we continue with the report writing, or should I conclude here, because I think
Sir,
1 hour is
I think the so far I think you have done the from the complete information you have provided already on the research paper writing. I think that will be enough for
okay,
staff.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with this there are certain things, then I would be last slide, and then I will be concluding here. These are
Okay.
basic points.
Yeah,
These
okay.
are the basic points to ponder. Whenever we write research paper, we need to plan it properly, well in time. Write at least some part on daily basis. This is very, very important. Otherwise, once the continuity is broken, it is very difficult to gain again the momentum. We need not to be a perfectionist. Over a period of time, we will have improvement. We will be able to hone our skills. Too much research, too much review of literature is not necessary. Everything should be in a balanced manner. Trying to write up in one draft, it is also not a good strategy, because once every time you will be in a different mindset, and different ideas will be coming into your mind at different times. So it is always better to complete one part at a time, then take rest, take feedback of our colleagues, peers. Do not forget about formatting and paperwork. Most important, control S. Backup. These are very, very important keys on your keyboard in order to avoid frustration at later stage that the final version has gone. I was not able to save it, so final version has gone. Once it is ready, get it proofread by our colleagues, friends. As many as proofreading possible, try to do it. Taking care of yourself, print the results. Do not neglect the images or references. And most important thing is, when you see, it is not the destination, it is the journey which is fulfilling. So enjoy writing, you feel the writing, then only it will be things will be easy. With this, I end my presentation. Then if it is a single author paper, then a particular weightage will be there. If two authors are there, then this particular weight will be shared, credit or marks will be shared like that. So there are elaborate guidelines provided by UGC as to how the academic performance indices will be calculated based on the authors.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, what basis the authorship given, sir?
Authorship generally, see, the basic thing is, it is a very, very it is associated with ethical aspects. So my point is that honorary authorship should not be there. Like, he is a very senior guy, he keeps on helping me, or on a give or take basis. Like, if I give my name, if I give his name in my paper, he will also give my name in his paper. That way, both will be benefited. This type of thing should not be encouraged. The point here is those who have really genuinely contributed to that particular study, they should be the author. Though the one who has made maximum contribution, he should be ideally he should be the first author, like that. Sometimes 2 out of 5 or 6 authors, 2 authors may mostly first or second author may carry the maximum burden. So they can become the first and second author, and with one asterisk or note can be put that these authors have contributed equally, so that the credit will be shared both the first and second authors equally, like that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Is there any other queries?
So if there are any queries from the audience, they can raise the questions now. So I would like to thank Dr. Meghvansi for your valuable time, for sharing your knowledge with us. And I feel much privileged to deliver a vote of thanks on this occasion. I hope all the participants had a wonderful time enjoying this occasion. This webinar is really very useful to us. On behalf of the management and the principal of SNME College, I would like to thank Dr. M.K.Meghvansi, Scientist, Defense R&D Establishment, for his enlightening speech on research paper writing. Knowledge on research paper writing is much required to publish articles in quality journals. In this context, your talk was very interesting and informative. I once again thank you very much for your valuable time and also for sharing your knowledge with us. I am sure that with the knowledge we gathered from you, we are going to be more productive in the days to come. Thank you, Dr. Meghvansi. We'll be very grateful to you always, and we'll be in touch with you always. And whenever you happen to come to Coimbatore, you are always welcome to our college. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Okay. My gratitude also goes to all the participants as well for their active participation. Last but not the least, my special gratitude goes to the organizers of this event for making this event a grand success. I'm sure that we'll come back with more and more interesting events in the future, and I expect your active participation as usual. Thank you all once again. Thank you.